Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. I always appreciate it. If you didn't get a chance to attend my speak over the weekend, do have a look at the presentation. We've uploaded it on YouTube. Kit was very inspirational and had a lot of life lessons embedded in his presentation, all of which struck a chord, I must say. I follow someone called Badruddin in the Maldives, and he tweeted 4 years ago, "Memories, Maldives." Have a look at this photograph, it's pretty good. Orson Welles, let me start with him. We're born alone, we live alone, we die alone. Only through our love and friendship can we create the illusion for the moment that we're not alone. Excellent piece in the New Yorker, The Shadow, 100 Years of Orson Welles. Truffaut once described Welles's work as a meditation on the weakness of the strong. Talking about his films are full of plays within plays, screens upon screens, and an incessant flicker of shadows on walls reminds us that we're looking at projected images. All this comes to a head in the late period masterpiece F for Fake, a study of hoaxes that itself turns out to be a hoax. And then another piece, but then he says, what we professional liars hope to serve as truth. I'm afraid the pompous word for that is art. Picasso himself said it. Art, he said, is a lie that makes us realize the truth. The alternative is grim. Reality, it's the toothbrush waiting at home for you in its glass, a bus ticket, a paycheck, and the grave. That took me back to Orson Welles' famous radio intervention, War of the Worlds, Martian Invasion. And it was, of course, a joke, but people took it very seriously. Put up a photograph of him. Transparency International. The situation is especially troubling in South Africa, where 83% think corruption has gotten worse. This is Jacob Zuma's challenge. And then in their survey, Transparency International, which is on the link is on the website, they're saying Africa's business tycoons are highly corrupt. Pontifex has ordered an audit of the church's wealth as whistleblowers are pursued. I think he's just a fabulous pope, I really do. US-led coalition strikes in Syria against IS have dramatically stopped. Asia Times. Both the American and Turkish air forces halted their strikes on Syrian territory around the time Russia deployed S-400 air defense complexes at the Kaimin air base, from which it stages its own incursions against IS. While a spokesperson of the Combined Joint Task Force Operation Inherent Resolve said that the absence of anti-IS coalition airstrikes has nothing to do with the S-400 deployment in Syria. The deployment is not merely an act of tightening Russian air defense. A closer look at it suggests its other significance. Certainly, Russia is not going to use those missiles against IS or any other terrorist organization. The only actors these missiles can potentially be used against are the states involved in Syria. It is as such a clear message to them. In fact, the very location of deployment tells the whole story plainly. The airbase is only 30 miles from Turkey's border. S-400 radar covers Syria, western regions of Iraq and Saudi Arabia, nearly all of Israel and Jordan, Egypt's northern Sinai, a large part of the eastern Mediterranean, and Turkish airspace as far as the capital Ankara. Therefore, it cannot be gainsaid that this deployment has literally turned almost the whole of Syria into a no-fly zone for US-led coalition airstrikes. put up an image of S-400, the system, and then rather presciently in the New Yorker, saying that the Russians have had several hundred of their own people killed by ISIL. President Obama said that there is a potential convergence of interest, and maybe there will be, in which case it would be helpful to have a clear sense of what bargains cooperation with Russia might entail. Or maybe Putin will send more planes to Syria with plans of his own. Erdogan lost his nerve. This is what Assad is saying in an interview with Czech television. I think it, shooting down the Russian jet, has shown the real intention of Erdogan, who, let's say, lost his nerve just because the Russian intervention has changed the balance on the ground. Currency markets, Euro 106.23, somewhere above its 7.5-month low of 105.57. Dollar index back below 100. Japanese yen 123.10. Swissy 102.69. The pound is at 150.65. Aussie has been a very strong feature of late, 0.7317, and touched a 7-week high of 0.7345 earlier, and surged a full cent on Tuesday. India rupee 66.515, South Korean won 1161.54, Rial 385.03, Egyptian pound 782.90, and the rand 1443.98. I'll put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index, and that's now waiting on a December rate hike. It was just, it touched 100.31 on Monday within a few ticks of its 12-year peak of 100.39 set in March. Euro dollars waiting on Draghi. Let me put up a 3-month chart of that as well, but it's been very soft on the negative interest rate environment in Europe. Commodity markets, gold 1068, the figure soft, and I expect it to be in triple digits. I thought it would happen for the end of the year. It will definitely happen early next year. Holger gold-silver ratio close to the widest since 2009, as silver has lost 71% since 2011, while gold has fallen 31%. Crude oil, Holger put up a long-term chart, but 1 month, let me put up a 1-month WTI chart, $41.58, 30 handle, here we come. Let's move on to Africa. President Mugabe rolls out the red carpet for Chinese premier in hope of securing further funds for Zimbabwe. Mr. Mugabe went to Harare's airport to personally greet the Chinese president, and thousands of children waving Chinese and Zimbabwean flags lined the 6 miles of road to the city centre. The two men met before a state dinner at which Mr. Z was expected to announce a number of trade deals. We already have more than 100 Chinese companies who have invested in Zimbabwe, and there is a lot of interest in all sectors of the economy from Chinese investors. In 2013, China spent $601 million on infrastructure projects in the country. The visit to Zimbabwe is very important for Mugabe, but less so for the Chinese, who are more concerned with the South African leg. President Xi is going to Harare out of political good manners. China has already made it clear that while there may well be developmental support, Beijing is not prepared to stabilize the Zimbabwean economy. I'm not sure President Xi Jinping is going to pony up what is required to jumpstart Zimbabwe. Tom Bauco, who I follow on Twitter, tweeted a photograph of the Bank of Mozambique central bank governor giving an emergency press conference where he announced that the Bank of Mozambique will limit the use of debit and credit cards abroad to prevent outflows of funds. The governor said transactions through credit and debit cards abroad increased from $300 million in 2012 to $800 million in 2014. On that note, let me put up a photograph of Pemba, which is an island in the Indian Ocean, seen from the sky. Tanzania's bulldozer leader's war on waste targets Christmas, um, saying that he's cancelled celebrations, Christmas cards, and he's really seriously, in my view, trying to change the narrative. South African all shares plus 3.55% this year. The rand briefly touched 14.495 against the dollar, which is a fresh record low. That was yesterday. Let me put up a 6-month chart. I think it's headed towards 15. Egyptian pound hanging in there at 783. The Egyptian EGX 30 is down 28.03% this year. The Nigerian all shares at a 3-year low, down 21.19% this year. The Ghana Stock Exchange is down 12.65% this year. Kenya orders anti-graft agency to report on Eurobond allegations. Public prosecutor ordered the country's anti-corruption agency to submit a report being compiled on allegations about the spending of Eurobond funds to his office within 10 days. Henry Rotich has reached out to meet with the head of the opposition, Raila Odinga, on this matter. I wrote about it in October when I said the Eurobond and investor relations. Have a look at that. Excellent piece about the central bank governor in Bloomberg. He will turn 54 on Wednesday. He's a member of the Roman Catholic organization Opus Dei. Has shunned most trappings of his post, such as a mansion and new cars. The governor donates part of his income to the church, lives a celibate life in a communal home with 6 other Opus Dei members in the capital. I've spent 20 years dealing with economic issues, he said. The thing that surprised me was the interest the population had in my personal life. I didn't expect that. One thing we had to deal with right away was anchoring inflation expectations. The exchange rate was depreciating, dropping like a stone. That was causing a lot of concern among the population, so we moved very aggressively. A world-class central bank needs to be in a strong, vibrant financial sector. We want strong banks that are able to deliver not just savings, but are able to invest and have proper intermediation. It says there's a political economy dimension in many things. That is something that is much more challenging. It's not something I'd fully appreciated before. Andrew Ritho, a spokesman for Opus Dei in Nairobi, which is about 700 members, said that the governor had turned down an official residence, cars and cell phones, and that unmarried members of the congregation usually donate their income to the church. What my religious beliefs shape is me, the way I relate to people, the way I relate to tasks. When I deal with people, I respect them. It's not just a game. Joshua, it's not about how much wealth you have, it's about what am I doing in my current position to create a change in my economy. It says we could never have gotten a better governor. I wrote on the 12th of October, staying ahead of the curve, and I said I'm certain that Njoroge will prove a very credible central banker, and this growing realization will support the shilling. BAT is down 9.36% on a total return basis in 2015. It was heavily traded yesterday. Of course, this references the BBC Panorama program that found that BAT paid politicians and civil servants in countries in East Africa. The payments were revealed when a whistleblower shared hundreds of secret documents. BATE 0.127% yesterday to close at 784 and traded 90,100 shares. This is a resilient outcome in the circumstances. The link for a trailer to this, The Secret Bribes of Big Tobacco, is on Rich Wrap-Ups. Kenya shilling at 102.20, Nairobi all share down 11.92% year to date, NSE 20 down 22.19% year to date. Atlas Development and Support Services has collapsed 85.477% in 2015. They issued an official announcement about how they were going to close their operation in Kenya, specified bad debts from GDC and others. But it's been a bit of a catastrophe. Imperial Bank Chief links Central Bank of Kenya staff to fraud. Naeem Shad, who temporarily succeeded Mr. Jan Mohammed as Group Manager Director, says in papers he has filed in response to a suit that receiver managers have a file against him that he never made any confessions on his alleged role in helping his boss embezzle depositors' funds. Indeed, Mr. Shah reckons that the Imperial Bank directors and Central Bank of Kenya officials were part of the fraud scheme and were merely implicating him to cover their tracks. It is the board of directors that controls affairs of the company and not employees. So it's still an ongoing story, still not clear what path, but I suspect it will go down the road of a bad bank and a good bank. It's talking about this audit. If any such audit was conducted, it was brought for the sole purpose of creating imaginary villains and offering Mr. Shah as a sacrificial lamb, whereas Imperial Bank's directors walk away scot-free. Yesterday, the volume meter at the stock exchange clocked much lower, only 368.745 million. Safaricom higher to close at 1565. It's up 9% since the 5th of November. It's done a lot of the heavy lifting at the stock exchange. Nation Media up another 2.58%, and that's been on the rally for a little while. TPS Serena, more optimism about tourism, popped 3.64% higher. KCB closed at 40.50, up 1.89%. We've already spoken about BAT and about Atlas. If you ever want to log into the real-time price feed from the stock exchange, just register on rich.co.ke, get a password, and then go to Rich Live. It's all free and it's real-time. Once again, thank you.